views on the street,
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city. The loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lawn.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents,
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
It's the Thursday episode of the Business Hour. Today we're talking about food production because the federal government said that they are looking at boosting food production and in the coming years. And there are lots of conversations, initiative on ground. But we're having obviously we're going to be having a guest for this segment and just to have conversations around food production in the country. And remember that all of this is against the backdrop of what is happening in the agri sector. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Business Hour on Voice of the People Television. My name is Frank Fagba. Joining us right now is Dr. Helen Emore, who's an agric expert. You're very much welcome to the Business Hour.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to your listeners.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Helen. What's your take about what is happening in your sector, the agric sector? Right now, we're seeing food inflation hovering around the 39% mark. It's quite a tough time for a lot of Nigerians. And you know that food inflation is the major driver of inflation in this country. Insecurity is bedeviling our farmers, flood also affecting it as regards climate change, a host of many other things. Underfunding is also a fundamental problem. What's your take about what is happening in your sector?
So for me, right, there's so much happening in that sector.
All right.
And I think the first thing to understand is that insecurity is a big issue. And unless we deal with insecurity, every other thing is just theory. I hear talks about having inputs for farmers, having support for farmers. There's a lot going on. But what happens if I can't go into the farm? It's a big issue. I think the number one elephant in the room in Nigeria is insecurity. And people want to increase food output, we have to deal with insecurity. A lot of farmers are not going to their farm. So sometimes, for me, when I hear people talking, I'm like, very good. If you give me fertilizer, you give me money, but I can't go to the farm. Of what use is it? So we need to address insecurity first. Once we address insecurity, I believe everything else will follow.
Okay, what strategy do you think the government should take as regards tackling food insecurity? Because the government is saying that they are looking at boosting food production, and it's not just having a lip service approach to boosting food production. We need to see actions. We need to see implementable actions that is following such conversations. What do you think the government can do to make sure all those conversations end up with actions? Dr. Helen, can you hear me?
I'm having to move my camera a bit.
All right.
Because you asked me to adjust it.
All right.
But I think for me, the first and most important thing is, are we dealing with the real issues? Because I have a farm, right? We have an oil palm farm. And I can tell you that one of the things we keep hearing is that, oh, we can't go to the farm to tap now. we can't go in now. The bush is not safe. The bush is not safe. They will even tell you as the owner of the farm that be careful if you are coming, because they don't want anything to happen to you. And if that is on the table, what are we talking about? All these other incentives. I looked at what you sent to me this morning, and I was asking myself, the real issue, I haven't seen it being dealt with. I haven't seen the real issue being dealt with. And the real issue is insecurity. That's the number one problem we have. When farmers can't go to their farm, when farmers are being kidnapped, when farmers are being raped, when farmers are being harassed and taxed illegally, what are we talking about? When I was 14, 15, 16, I used to go to the farm with my dad, my brothers and sisters and I. Not that we were going to work, but we were going to look at the farm. We'll roast all sorts of things. We'll do all sorts of things in the farm, go home with corn. We used to go and play in the farm, really. Not that we were working. But now, even you as a farmer, you can't go, talk less of taking your children. So for me, I think that once insecurity is dealt with, then we can begin to talk about putting to good use all the resources that will be at the beck and call of the farmers. So we can begin to talk about good inputs, access to fertilizers, access to funding, long-term funding. Not all these ones that you come, they'll say they are giving people money, how much, 50,000, 100,000. It doesn't move any needle. It does not move needle. We have a lot of smallholder farmers that can be organized into clusters. But to organize them into clusters, you need resources. And who wants to put their resources in what they are not sure of? Who wants to put their resources in volatile environment? Uncertainty is different from volatility. You don't know. Anything can just happen at any time. Nobody wants to do that. So for me, I think that we have a big challenge dealing with the critical issues in Nigerian agricultural sector. So yes, the government has policies. Yes, the government has said their own. But the real issue is, are we able to get those farmers to bring out proper yields if we give them resources? Will they use it for what they are supposed to use it to? No, the answer is no. Even the lenders are not giving anything to farmers. It's mostly grants from international governmental organizations, foundations. There are quite a number of them who are supporting farmers. So now, really, if you ask me, we haven't dealt with the real issues. And I did not see that in some of the pronouncements that I hear out there on policy. The real challenge is deal with insecurity. And this is not just me. Talk to people who are in farming. Yeah. Talk to people who are in agric. They will tell you the same thing.
Okay, you made mention of funding, and you're saying funding has only been coming from some private organizations, coming as grants and coming as different forms of funding, but not from the government. Now, all of this is against the backdrop of Nigeria having the Bank of Agriculture. And the question I'll pose to you is, what is the work of the Bank of Agriculture in all of this? What is their objective? It looks like they are nowhere to be found when we're talking about funding of farmers, and they're always at the back bench. Why? What is wrong with the Bank of Agriculture?
I don't think anything is wrong with those institutions. What I perceive from my interactions with them,
all right,
it's that they don't have a deep understanding of the consumers they are dealing with, of the customers they are dealing with. I want to take money from you. You're telling me to go and bring a collateral. For me, if I had that collateral, I'll sell it and use it to do business, which is what I did in my own case. Whatever assets I had, I disposed of them to stay in business. And you make them fill such long forms. You tell them to bring guarantors. You tell them to bring documents to show that they'll be able to pay. You tell them to bring a bank guarantee where they will have to pay a certain fee before they access it. This is not realistic for someone who is struggling to fund their business, right? It's not realistic. So for me, I think that the operators of those institutions, they need to find a better way of structuring their offerings. Yes, I understand when they say that, look, it's not their money, it's other people's money, and they have to put mechanisms in place to ensure that they are able to get those funds back. But the way it's currently structured, it's just not a tidy arrangement. It's not. So it's very difficult.
Are you insinuating that we have square pegs in round holes? Are you insinuating that we have square pegs in round holes when we're talking about financial institutions that are earmarked and earmarked for the agri sector? Is that what you're insinuating?
For me, I think that we need to get people who understand how the sector works.
Okay.
To deal with financing policies, to deal with special projects policies. Look, I'll give you an example. One of the largest financial institutions in Nigeria is a lender, and that lender just looked at the informal trade sector and they started funding them in a way that traditional financial institutions refused to fund them. And what did that make them? It made them a unicorn. And this is probably what will have to happen in the agri sector for farmers to have access to funding. We are going to, I believe, maybe even from practitioners in the agri sector, we're going to have people who come up with a financing strategy that aligns with the realities of farmers. The current financing structure of Nigeria is not realistic. It does not align with the realities of farmers. And the people who want to provide such funding tend to be more interested in protecting the funds than in helping the farmer. There has to be a balance. You have to trust me that I will use the money well. You also have to trust me that I will pay the money back. But when there's a lack of trust, you now begin to put all sorts of things in place to prevent or protect the money. It's not working. So there's a lot to be done on the financing side. On the farmer side also, we also have a lot to do. So we need to build more clusters. We need to structure smallholder farmers into better cooperatives and put them in a position where they're able to negotiate for funding, where they're able to negotiate with funders, and also access other inputs in a more seamless manner than what it is now. Right now, it's easier for me as a farmer to access whatever I want informally than to plug into most of these schemes that are out there, because there are too many barriers to accessing that kind of support. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that space, and some of us are already looking at doing some of that work to make sure that we can get what we need.
So speaking of financing, what advice would you give to financial institutions? Because truth be told, many of these financial institutions, all of them, as a matter of fact, I dare say many of them are not NGOs. They are in for profit. And so they always say in financing, first you protect your capital before even thinking of any return on investment. And so you wouldn't necessarily blame them when they tilt towards protection of capital. And that's why you see them edging to sectors and industries that are much more structured, and they have a level playing ground as regards receiving those funds. But when you talk about the agri sector, there's not so much of a structure that they can hold on to, because you're giving funds, you're investing in systems, you're investing in structures. So we don't have those systems, we don't have those structures, because we've had conversations with some of the financial institutions. So what do you have to say regarding the systems and structures in your sector that will help enable financing, especially coming from financial institutions?
So, for me, two things here. First, financial institutions. Yeah. Second, beneficiaries. The first thing is the financial institutions need to take a deeper journey into their customers' journey map. In marketing, there's something called a customer journey map. How does the customer decide that he needs your product? How does he find you? What are the things he considers? And then how does he get your service or your product? I think financial institutions need to do a deep dive into how the agri sector is structured and into how the typical farmer works. If they have done so, my take is that all they see are the risks. They haven't looked at how they can help these farmers come out of this quagmire. On the other hand, farmers also need to come together to say, look, these people keep telling us that they don't want to fund us. We are high risk because there are a lot of variables that are not within our control.
That's
so
right.
what are the things that we can do to make us attractive for funding? So it's a two-way thing. There needs to be deeper dialogue. I call it just fancy conversations. There are a lot of fancy conversations going on around agribusiness. And for me, it hasn't really moved the needle as much as it ought to. We need to get down into the hinterlands, get down to the villages, find out what the farmers are facing and see how we can help them. And then for those of us who are in the farming business, also be able to organize ourselves in a better way so that those who want to help us can see better ways of helping us. Right now, I believe that farmers sometimes will feel entitled that we are producing food, we should help us. No, we also have to package ourselves in a way that makes it attractive for them to fund us. Tell them that we have put ourselves together in clusters, we have worked together to ensure that we have off-takers, we have worked together to ensure that we can have shared facilities around mechanization, around talent pooling, around introducing technology. Let them understand that we are making efforts to make it work. The only thing that the farmers don't have absolute control over is security. We cannot build our own armies. We cannot get guns. So we need the government to come in there. But for the rest, the farmers can organize themselves. And there are people who have expertise in organizing people. They can do it. Some of us are working with clusters. Some of us are forming cooperatives to ensure that we're able to get better things, to ensure that we're able to build shared facilities for processing, for adding value, and also for trading. So there's a lot happening on the farmer side, and we believe that we are going to continue engaging stakeholders to ensure that they can come and meet us where we are so we can get the resources that we need to grow the sector. Right now, the sector is very under-resourced.
All right. Have you heard of farm rangers? I don't know if you've heard of them.
I didn't hear that. Farm what?
Farm rangers. Farm rangers.
Farm rangers, not in Nigeria though.
Okay, so the government, some 2 months back, the government actually came out and said they are disbursing 20,000 farm rangers. They are going to arm them and all whatnot just to protect the farms. And that was in the bid to tackle the insecurity that is currently bedeviling our farms across the length and breadth of Nigeria. So have you heard of, that's why I asked if you've heard of the farm rangers, and you said no, not in this country. So apparently you're not seeing the impact of the farm rangers. You've not heard from any of your colleagues whether they've seen farm rangers on their farms, because 20,000 farm rangers were said to have been deployed to different farms in this country.
No, I haven't seen them where my farm is in Delta State. And I also do not know of anyone who has it. I belong to a community of over 300 agribusiness practitioners through the Lagos Business School. And I also facilitate a lot of sessions and programs on farming. I haven't seen anyone who has been directly impacted by the farm ranger. Maybe there are people out there, maybe it's coming to us later, I don't know. So I cannot say that these are farm rangers and these are the ones that I have seen. Personally, I haven't seen any. And I don't know anybody who has seen them. I mean, if it exists, we had a conversation 2 days ago because another of our colleagues was having a dialogue with the Minister of Finance. And after all the rigmarole, it came down to two critical things. Number one, how do we deal with the insecurity? Number two, how do we get the ecosystem to understand our needs?
If it does exist,
an ongoing dialogue.
If it does exist, that's speaking of the farm rangers, do you think it's a step in the right direction towards addressing the insecurities ravaging our farms?
Yes, I believe so. I really do believe so. It would help because where the Nigerian Constitution is currently structured, individuals are not allowed to carry assault rifles or assault weapons. So even if you have guns and licenses, it's a double barrel. You can't use that to stand against somebody who has more sophisticated weapons. So the government really has to intensify efforts in dealing with insecurity. And I have, on the news this morning, I heard a lot of talk about how to deal with insecurity and how to deal with all those troubling the nation. That's a most welcome development. So I believe that it will work. So it would work. Anything that makes it safe. I made an investment somewhere and I've just refused to go back there. My friends and I We're looking at the options of starting a poultry farm. We talked about having some livestock farm, but we just can't go there because the feedback is that there's a lot of insecurity around that area now. And at the time we started, it wasn't like that. It was a place you could go to freely and come out of freely. But now there's just too many negative reports, and you're asking yourself, do I want to expose myself to that kind of risk?
Okay. Earlier in the year, I think second quarter of this year, we saw the government come out to separate the Ministry of Agri, separate it into two, one for livestock and all whatnot, and the other for crop farming. Yes, yeah. Exactly, and administration. Do you think and we're not seeing all of this reflecting in the numbers as regards food inflation, maybe dropping, and even the prices of items in the marketplace? Nigerians are going to the market, the food and basic food items keep skyrocketing, price of rice, gari, beans, and all whatnot, all of them hitting glass ceilings. Why is this not reflecting? It looks like it's not really moving the needle.
You know, one of the things I learned about policy making is that when you're making a policy, you have to start from bottom up and find out how it impacts, be clear on what the immediate impacts are. In setting up that ministry, I believe the government had their own agenda. There were a lot of things around farmer headers clash. There's a lot of information about climate change, how it's impacting the livestock industry. But so is the same thing in the ministry in crops. So I'm going to have a Ministry of Crops and a Ministry of Livestock. I believe what's important is to have a more holistic policy approach to dealing with the agribusiness ecosystem. How do we make sure that every part of the value chain works? Whether it is livestock, whether it's cropping, whether it's processing, retail, export, how do we make everything work together? So for me, having a Ministry of Livestock, I don't know, I can't see how it's going to improve our livestock output. I can't see how it's going to reduce some of the conflicts that we've had in the past, unless there is a deliberate effort and strategic initiatives to ensure that those policies are properly implemented. So if you have a ministry dedicated to livestock and you're still implementing policies the way you were implementing them when you had a Ministry of Agri, then there will be no change. So for me, the devil is in the detail. How do you execute? There's so many policies, there's so many ministries, there's so many departments, but what are they doing to affect the lives of livestock farmers? What are they doing to affect the price of feed? What are they doing to ensure that we have increased output of maize? What are they doing in terms of research? What are they doing in terms of using technology to improve yield of livestock, to improve access to milk, access to egg? What are they doing? A crate of egg now is inching towards 6,000, 7,000. In some places, it's 8,000. What are they doing to bring these prices down? What are they doing to make it more accessible? So whether you create 100 ministries or departments, the important thing is, what do they do? Is this ministry going to do anything different from when it was just a directorate in the Ministry of Agri? That is what we want to see. So the jury is out really on what that ministry is going to be able to do for us as a nation.
Let us talk about oil. You're in the business of farming palm oil, and it's becoming expensive. Why is that so? It looks like, are we also importing palm oil? Are we importing most of our palm oil? I guess the answer is no, but then you can answer that. Why is it becoming so expensive, and what's the reason for the rise in price?
From the layman's point of view,
yes,
it is that palm oil is produced seasonally in Nigeria. And the seasonality stems from the fact that during the rainy season, up until about now, farmers find it difficult to access their farms. And then, of course, our harvesting techniques are still very primitive. So we don't have modern technologies for harvesting palms from the tree in a very seamless way that will improve your yields. We still have people doing tapping manually. So that makes it difficult for tappers to get the fresh fruit bunches during this rainy season. And then also the way the bushes are structured, that makes it very difficult. And then again, back to the elephant in the room, there's been a lot of insecurity. And so that has affected people's ability to go into the farm. But the major challenge for me is technology. We don't have a technology that allows us harvest all year round seamlessly. And so that affects the price of oil palm in Nigeria. So during this season, when it's rainy season, and there's a lot of bushes, a lot of roads to the farms are very, very bad, so it's difficult to go in. And then we don't have the technology to harvest without people climbing, without people having to do things manually. So that affects output. So you see that during this period, a lot of people are not harvesting as much as they should. But now that the rains are gone, people have started going back to the farms and started tapping, and the price of oil is now coming down. So there's that seasonality thing. So I believe that one of the things we are working on is to see how we can get accessible technology for tapping so that we can tap all year round. And then also for us, see if we can come together with other farmers to improve access to the farms even during the rainy season so that we can move our crops out. Those are two major challenges that affect the price of oil in Nigeria. And yes, we are still importing a lot of oil. In fact, data suggests, according to Statista, that Nigeria imports over $500 million of oil palm every year. So there is a challenge. And unless we apply technology, unless we improve mechanization, it's going to continue that way because the demand for oil is increasing every year. And so there's a need for us to do more in terms of technology and in terms of modern farming practices. And those are the things that we're working to try and improve in our own side and working with other farmers so that we can all come together to get access to this technology.
The largest exporters of palm oil, of oil palm, and they take care of 53% with a value of $22 billion. Do you think someday we'll find ourselves among the top 5 countries who export palm oil in the world? Because it looks like we have the capacity. We have arable land. We are big as regards palm, and we have what it takes. Do you think someday we would find ourselves among the top 5 exporters of palm oil in the world?
Right. I believe in Nigeria. I'm probably one of several other people out there who say that all the problems we have in Nigeria are actually an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for entrepreneurship. So yes, I believe that these are real problems that we need to solve in the sector. How do we introduce technology? How do we introduce mechanization across small farms, not just a few big ones that we hear of every day in the news? How do we ensure we improve access to modern processing facilities and also routes to market for harvested products? So those are some of the things that we need to work on, and they present business opportunities. Yeah. They present opportunities to cooperate. They present opportunities for investment. So I look at the problems in the Nigerian agricultural sector outside of insecurity. I look at all the other problems and invert them and see them as problems for people to solve. And when you solve them, you give value, definitely will get value. So it's an opportunity to be entrepreneurial. And those are the things that we are looking at beyond just complaining, because I don't believe that anybody's going to come from Mars to save us. There are solutions to all these problems. People have done it in Malaysia, in Indonesia. People have done it. So why can't we? And that's really our own focus at Sentia Partners, to say, look, the wicked problems in agri, which are the ones that people have solved and which are the ones that we can help people solve. So yes, we can become the highest net exporter of all the cash crops that we have and even the food crops. So if we have people who come in to say, look, these are the areas where there are gaps, how can we correct it so that we can get value from it? That is very possible. Okay. I believe there are challenges, but I also believe that those challenges present opportunities for investments, by smart entrepreneurs, not just Me Too entrepreneurs.
Why in the festive season, what food items do you think are going to be very expensive? Because I want us to come to talk to people, the average Nigerian. What food items do you think will be very, very expensive? Obviously, we know rice is one of those. It always happens, demand, supply, and all the other things affecting the agri sector. But what food items do you think is going to be expensive at this point in time? And what advice would you give to Nigerians? Should they go stock up on those food items? And perhaps even maybe after the festive season, the price is going to come down. What food items do you think is going to be very expensive this season?
My experience, all the food items are expensive.
Whoa.
For my own experience, because I go to the market. Yeah. I love going to the market. I go to my 12, I go to Dough, I go to Igbo. I go to the market, right? And everything is expensive, whether it's livestock or crops. And during festive seasons, demand tends to be high. So this period, everything is very expensive. So one of the things that I would advise is, if you can afford it, try and buy what you can at the end of November. Whatever it is you can buy, please buy. And things like pepper, tomatoes, buy and freeze them. If you can buy livestock, also buy, because for as long as I can remember, prices always go up during the festive seasons. And then again, the supply is usually not as high as demand. So whether it is oil, condiments, crops, livestock, the price of everything goes up. So I can't predict by how much. And I don't know I've never seen things come down in this country. So I cannot say that the price of anything will come down. So if you can afford it and you have a facility for storage, please stock up on your vitals. Like for me, what I'll do is buy pepper, tomatoes, blend them at the end of November so that it can last me throughout the Christmas period. For the proteins, I'll buy a bit and stock up. Again, these things cost money, right? And then, power is not very stable. So you're not going to be anxious about keeping them fresh. But then whatever you can buy and stock up on, please do so before December, because the demand is usually very high in December. So the retailers tend to do what we call dynamic pricing. Once they see demand is high, they know you must cook for the festive season. So they just increase their price and you buy it anyway. You have no choice.
Do you think it's a direct sabotage? Do you think it's a direct sabotage? Because we've seen conversations from different state governors, like that of Edo State. The new state governor, he said he dissolved the market association and all whatnot, saying that they are instrumental in increasing the price of food items. So do you think Nigerians are taking advantage of Nigerians, or is it a reflection of what is happening directly in the markets, from the farm gates straight to the markets? Do you think Nigerians are taking advantage of Nigerians, or is it just a reflection of the markets?
I don't believe that Nigerians are taking advantage of Nigerians. Just because those people are selling food products, it doesn't mean that they don't have overheads. They have overheads. They take transport. Do they have control over the price of petrol? No. Do they have control over the price of transportation? No. The man who is carrying your goods, he used to buy, this time last year, he was buying petrol at maybe 300 or thereabouts. Now he's buying at 1,001 something. And you want him to charge the same thing? No, he won't. So he's going to charge the woman or man who is selling higher than what he used to charge before. He has to stay in business. The market women cannot subsidize people. They cannot. So they have to sell based on what they buy. And if you check their records, you discover that they also have to buy and sell in a way that allows them to have a profit to be able to go back and restock. There's no point buying and then you sell at a loss. Are you in the business of subsidizing everybody?
Dr. Helen,
have to put them some slack. They have other costs too.
Dr. Helen Emore,
I want to sell this product at 10,000 today. No, they don't.
Dr. Helen Emore, thank you very much for sharing your expertise. It's been a great conversation. Thank you for coming to the Business Hour.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you.
As we've discussed, boosting food production in Nigeria requires a multifaceted approach. We'll continue to monitor the government's initiatives and progress. We'll be right back for some other stories making the round in the world of business. This is the Business Hour.
state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being of an individual. It's the fundamental right of everyone to enjoy the highest attainable standard of health, without distinction of race, religion, or political belief. On VOP TV, we bring you Health Check, a show that x-rays different health issues and provides solutions with the help of experts in the medical field. Join us every Tuesday from 2:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Health Check. Health Check on VOP TV. Your health, our priority.
Nigeria's 47.9 billion or trillion naira, it's a 2025 budget. That figure you just heard. Nigeria's 2025 budget is the lowest since 2018 in dollar terms. Now imagine Nigeria's economy as a large household where budgeting plays a crucial role in ensuring financial stability. However, Nigeria's budget proposal, 2025 budget proposal, raises a lot of concerns. It's the lowest we've had since 2018 based on looking at the value in dollar terms. And during what we always do on the business where we take a look at some of your reactions on social media, you understand what this means in clear terms. Now, Nigeria's 2025 budget is 47.9 trillion naira, the lowest since 2018 in dollar terms. Now, in dollar terms, that's $27.96 billion. $27.96 billion. And to put it in perspective, it literally means that the richest man in the world has the capacity to be able to fund our 2025 budget. The richest man in the world, Elon Musk, is worth more than $300 billion. And he has the capacity to be able to fund this budget. And it's not going to move a needle. $27.96 billion. That's what we need to be able to fund our budget. Now, the Naira devaluation causes a lot of decline. The benchmark exchange rate of 1,400 USD considered ambitious. Remember, they were still hovering around the 1,700. And the benchmark exchange rate is 1,400 Naira to 1 USD. The proposed budget deficit is 13.8 trillion Naira. It exceeds 3% ceiling. And the capital expenditures allocation is 7.7 trillion naira, 7.7 trillion naira. 16% of the total spending is what is going to capital expenditure. Remember that our recurrent expenditure outweighs our capital expenditure. And we've been talking about this, that we need to make sure we have a budget where our capital expenditure outweighs our recurrent expenditure. We have a lot of infrastructural deficit. The infrastructural gap in this country is much. And so there is no reason why vast majority of our budget is being earmarked for paying salaries, for paying bills, recurrent expenditure, just like the term recurrent. It always occurs. It reoccurs. Capital expenditure, for capital projects, for building assets, for building infrastructures that the entire economy is going to build on. The NES, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, I will also recommend revising the oil price benchmark from $75 per barrel to $70 per barrel. And I also said this on the business hour. There is no reason why our oil benchmark should be $75 per barrel. If we think out of the box and see through the walls of the US government, knowing fully well that Donald Trump is now back in power, what do you think is going to happen to the price of oil? Plummet. Why? Less war in the Middle East. If there's less war in the Middle East, less interaction, less interference from the US government to everything happening in the Middle East. So that will mean that less revenue for the Nigerian oil economy. Because if there's less turmoil in the Middle East, it means that the price of oil is going to plummet. Those who are enjoying the war in the Middle East are the oil economies, like that of Nigeria, like that of the UAE and other OPEC countries. So we should bring down our oil benchmark price to $70 per barrel. That way we're playing safe. $75 per barrel is quite ambitious. It's quite ambitious. And remember that we still have we're still having lots of conversations around our output, production outputs. Our production output has been below our OPEC quota. Our OPEC quota was 1.5 million barrels per day. The month of October was the first time we crossed 1.5 million barrels in more than 9 months. Last month, we got to 1.8. But how sustainable can it be? Do we have what it takes to sustain that output? The question is, I don't think so. The answer is that I don't think so. Definitely, we'll have some oil expert to come share ideas about all of this. Let's move on to some other stories. This story is it's at the front burner of all conversations. Lagos stops the list, followed by Rivers and Oyo State as regards VAT generation. Now, the value-added tax is like a silent contributor to Nigeria's economy, generating billions. Let's uncover the top performers. Lagos generates 249 billion naira in VAT. I'm sure my producer is saying this is going to put the list. Is going to put the list on the screen so you understand what is happening. Regarding VAT, I have a list over there, and you're going to see it. Put it up, and that's what you're seeing on the screen. Lagos has the highest as regards VAT, 249.77 billion naira. The next on our list is Rivers State. Rivers State, 70.54 billion naira. You're also seeing Oyo State having 20.1 billion naira as regards VAT generated in one year. Look at the next is FCT, 18 billion naira. Delta State, we have 13 billion naira. We also have Bayelsa, 7 billion. Kano, 4.65 billion. We know Kano is one of the first states. Okay, the FCT and then Kano is one of the first states to feature from the northern region of this country. And I guess that's why we saw the northern governors complaining about the fact that there is no reason why we should have the derivation model that the new tax reforms is bringing on board as regards making sure that those who are in the business of producing in their state and where that particular product is being consumed would get the highest allocation as regards VAT allocation. Look at it on the list. Kano State, we also have Akwa Ibom State is the next. Anambra State, 4.2 billion. Edo State, 4 billion. Ekiti State, 3.6 billion. Borno State, 3 billion. That's quite a lot of Nigerians will say, anyways, it's quite impressive, despite the fact that we have the unrest in Borno. Look at Kwara State, 2.8 billion. Adamawa State, 2.5 billion. We also see Plateau State. Plateau State is 2.58 billion. Benue State, 2.56 billion. Gombe State was seeing 2.56 billion. Kogi State, 2.43 billion. Kaduna State is 2.03 billion. 2.03 billion. Let's take a look at some other state, the lower part of the list. We also see Ebonyi State, 1.9 billion. Taraba State, 1.8. Sokoto, 1.8. Osun State, 1.8. Ogun State, 1.7. It's quite appalling to see Ogun State at this level, because Ogun State is known to have a couple of companies, is known to be the production hub of many of all these FMCGs. And so why is Ogun State still having 1.7 billion? That's quite appalling, and it's poorly performed, if you ask me. Niger State, 1.7 billion. Yobe State, 1.7. Katsina State, 1.6. Jigawa State, 1.5. Nasarawa State, 1.4. We're seeing Ondo State, 1.46 billion. If you're just joining us, we're having a conversation regarding VAT revenue generation coming in from respective states. Enugu State, 1 billion. Cross River State, 1 billion. We even have Bauchi State, 690 million. Kebbi State, 670 million. Abia State, 660 million. Zamfara State, 430 million. Imo State, 240 million. Now the total is 444 billion naira. That's the amount we've generated as regards VAT, value added tax. Remember that the government, there are lots of speculations around the fact that the government is looking at increasing it from 7.5% to 10%. And there's still lots of conversations around this present tax reforms, the derivation principle of making sure that where a particular product is being consumed, that state gets the largest amount of, largest allocation for revenue, the sharing formula. And right now, the sharing formula is 50% to states, 35% to the federal government, and 15% to the local government. That's the sharing, that's the allocation, that's the allocation model is based on what we have right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Business Hour on Voice of the People Television. We'll be right back. When we come back, we're going straight into what is happening across all on social media, your reactions on social media, and also taking a look at what is happening in the market, the crypto market. This is the Business Hour. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
From the views on the street
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents,
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people. Catch up with the latest topics making the buzz, the stories that tick, the trends. Let's let you in on why they are trending, from politics, entertainment, business, lifestyle, and more. Analyzing the trending stories with top eyeballs. Hashtag on Voice of the People Television, giving you an insight to everything and everyone Nigeria is talking about. Showing on VOP TV, 10 p.m. Monday to Friday. Hashtag if it's trending, we bring it on.
It's time for the markets segment and also social media reactions. Let's take a look at what is happening across the length and breadth of social media. I always told you, tweet at us at VOP TV Live. Use the hashtag The Business Hour. You just might end up featuring on our screen. This is coming from Cross. Cross has this to say. Dasuki said this first. Chuka Obi, earning 350K in 2014 has more value than earning 3 million naira in 2024. And Cross is saying that he wishes he was lying. But 2014, 350K was equivalent to $1,944. $1,944. 2024, 3 million naira is equivalent to 1,714, I beg your pardon, 1,714 dollars. That's the value in 2024. Let's look at some other reactions coming in from social media as well. Look at that. There's a trend that's been going. This is coming from Money Africa. We listen, we don't judge. Money Edition. That's the trend. And somebody has this to say. He said that I bought land in Mowe of Fada in 2014 with 500K. Even though my friend did his best to advise me to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin was less than 50K then. He got 10. He bought 10 Bitcoin. Today, the value of his BTC is 155 million naira. As a matter, the value of one BTC today is 155 million naira, not the value of the 10 BTCs. So imagine the value of 10 BTCs. That's 1.5 billion naira if you look at that value. And that's why we always say sometimes you just might have invest wisely. It's not that investing in land is bad, but at the same time you want to apportion your investment portfolio, your portfolio, some to risky assets, some to riskless assets, and you can just put some 10% of your entire portfolio into risky assets, and you just might end up making a truckload of money based on what is happening. But it's not in any way financial advice, because this market can be extremely volatile. You can lose it, make a fortune and lose a fortune at the same time. Okay, let's look at some other reactions coming in from social media as well. This is coming from Slim Fit. Slim Fit has this to say: the way Nigeria is right now, you're better off earning 500K per month in 2021 than earning 1.5 million naira per month in 2024. And it looks like that's the reality in the marketplace. Let's look at some other reactions coming in from social media as well. Earning 150K in 2012 is better than 2.5 million per month in 2024. Quite pathetic is the current state of the Nigerian economy. Elections have consequences. I always say this. This is coming from one of the grandfathers of investment, Robert Kiyosaki. If you've read his book, you understand what we're talking about. $13 million Bitcoin, according to Michael Saylor. I believe he's right. He's one smart boy. Bitcoin today is $90,000. If Saylor is on target, which I think it is, that means for $9,000 today, you buy 0.01 Bitcoin today, you are a millionaire tomorrow. Sure bets is going to $50,000 in debt for a student loan, studying for years, just to earn a flimsy MBA. Get smarter, buy Bitcoin today. He's buying Bitcoin. That's what he's saying. And it's not in any way financial advice. Make sure you seek financial advice, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever said on the business is just for information purposes. Let's take a look at some other reactions coming in from social media. The middle class is dead. You need to be extra wealthy to do anything aside from feeding and buying fuel right now. It's quite tough. Let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin today. We're just going to take a look at the price. Look at that on your screen. The price of Bitcoin, $96,000. As a matter of fact, $96,785. 3.8% gains in the market. Look at Ethereum, $3,144. That's the price of Ethereum. Solana, $241. Solana is gradually edging into its all-time high. Quite an amazing time for the market. The Donald Trump effect is literally happening in the market. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we draw the curtains to the end of the Business Hour on Voice of the People Television. My name is Frank Fagba. We have no time for us to take a look at what is happening across all markets. Catch up with me across all social media platforms at Fagba Frank, where we continue the conversation on your money, your business, and the economy. Kizike has got you covered in the world of sports. Sit back, relax, because this is the Voice of the People. Cheers.